Good evening, Frank. Good evening, Ben.
Hello, good evening.
Hello, everybody.
You look well. How are you feeling?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Oh, good. How are you feeling? You look well.
I'm not well. I'm going to take video off in a few minutes because I've been in the hospital too long and I don't look like myself. But I'm doing okay. Had a doctor's appointment today and it all went well. So that's good.
Good, good. Well, you don't look worse for the wear, so tough to keep down.
Sorry about the hat. Normally I wouldn't wear a hat to a board meeting.
Oh my gosh, don't apologize. We're happy you're here. Good evening, April. And good evening to our 8 attendees so far. We're waiting for a few more board members before we will get started, but thank you for logging on and being here. All right. Well, I have not received any notes or emails from Dan or Scott. Not sure if anyone else has been in touch with them, but maybe we'll just give it one more minute and then we'll get started and let them catch up.
I haven't, but I know Scott does do surgeries all day on Wednesdays. That's his surgery day.
It's a lot to juggle on a Wednesday. Good evening, Scott.
Hi there.
Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. And if Dan jumps on, we'll just let him catch up. But so good evening. Thank you for attending the April 6th, 2022 VSWEA board meeting. Good evening to our 10 attendees. We're so glad that you're here. We'll go ahead and get started with the opening verse. April, would you mind reading the closing verse at the end of the meeting? Great, thank you. Okay. The true aim of education is to awaken real powers of perception and judgment in relation to life and living. For only such an awakening can lead to true freedom. Rudolf Steiner. And now we'll move on to introductions. My name is Kirsten Kabina. I am the board president. I have 2 children at Desert Marigold, and I'll kind of read off board members from left to right on my screen, and then we'll introduce our guests as well. So Mariah, you're up first.
Hi, everyone. Mariah Moon, mom of 2, board member.
Thank you. Mr. Tanner?
John Tanner, board member.
Thank you. Nellie?
Nellie Grotzenbacher, board member for children at DMS.
Thank you. Danielle?
Hi, good evening. Danielle Martinez, board member, been at DMS since 2010. My daughter's in 10th grade.
Yeah. April?
April Sauer, board secretary, and I have a daughter at DMS.
Ben?
Hi, all. Ben Fong, board member, 2 kids at DMS.
Thank you. And Scott?
Hello, Scott Edwards, board member.
Thank you. Okay, and we have 2 guests joining us this evening. Michelle, if you want to introduce yourself, please.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm Michelle Kratzer, and I'm parent council chair, and I have 3 kids at DMS.
Thank you. And save the best for last, Mr. Maurizio.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. My name's Frank Maurizio. I am the proud executive director at DMS.
Great, thank you. And with that, we'll kick off to our agenda items. And we actually are starting with the executive director update. So, Mr. Maurizio.
Okay, I'll start with the best news first. I was able to talk to our contractor doing our 2 projects of the wood shop and the bathroom lobby at the high school. And he had good news. And it looks like at least one of the permits have gone through. So we're setting up a meeting, him, me, and Steve Paolo next week to start laying out a timeline for them to break ground on these things. As you know, I've been pushing this for months now. And so I'm happy to hear that at least one of the permits have gone through. He wasn't sure about the wood shop one yet, but we have to do them in separate stages anyway. So that's good news. Second good news, and I didn't get a chance to see Michelle or Laura this week because of my situation, but everyone is telling me the barbecue on Friday was a big hit again. Of course, they always tease that was so good. Let's do it every Friday. There you go, Michelle. But thank you for all you do. It was a big hit and everyone really enjoyed themselves. Kind of a good way to kick off the spring. Really happy about that. Some budgetary things. Monique and I met on the phone this week to start the budget process. We still don't have final increases from the governor, but they're getting closer to that. And it looks like I'm not going to put a number on it at a public meeting, but we are looking at increases for our staff based upon 2 things. Number one, there is going to be some kind of an increase from the state in the funding formula per pupil spending. And clearly, we're going from 285 to right now 305 enrolled. And we still have another 12 with paperwork out. And so even 285 to 305 is a good 20 student increase, which should give us more money in the coffers as well. And that's all positive news on the side of the budget, unless something really crazy happens, which we're not anticipating. I'm sure by next board meeting, I will have final numbers for you and be able to email the budget to you in the next 3 weeks or so. So that's good news as well. Trying to think what else. I need to publicly thank our staff and our front office for holding it together in my absence. They have been just wonderful at everything they're doing, communicating to me, talking with me. Dr. Darian is worth his weight in gold right now. He always was, but he really has stepped up. The front office ladies have been outstanding. I am just so grateful and thankful to have them as team members. We're going to get through this. Everything's going to be okay. I am positive of that. What else do I have? Oh my goodness. Where contracts went out to certified staff. This next week, I should be sending out contracts to our specialty teachers. And then the week after will be our classified employees. Those are employees like aides and secretaries and the grounds people. So we do it in 3 stages to make sure that our budget is going along appropriately. And that all seems to be going well. We now have 5 applicants for 2.5 jobs right now, which is wonderful news. And 2 of them are Waldorf trained teachers, which is also wonderful news. And in a strange twist of fate, we have 2 people applying from Hawaii, which is where we got the Kaisers from. And the Kaisers have been talking our school up so highly that school is now closed and these people are moving to Arizona. And they said, you have to look up DMS. You'd be fools not to look into it. So I have not contacted those people yet, but that will happen later this week so that we can do proper interviews and see who these people are. One of them has a special ed cert, which is outstanding because we're always short special ed teachers. And I think that's all I have right now.
Fantastic news. Thank you.
Wait, I apologize.
Oh.
Prom went really well. I was sick that I could not be there, but Crystal and Andrew reported to me that it was a huge hit. We did it off campus for the first time in a couple of years, and that was very positive. Special thanks to Crystal Lee, who is the student council sponsor for that class, and to all the seniors who pulled it off and put it together. It was well attended and a positive event. And those are the type of events that are happening now as we wind down with the end of the year stuff. It's unbelievable that we're talking that way, but we've got 8th grade promotion. We've got high school graduation coming up. We've got Rainbow Bridge coming up. We've got the Maypole Assembly on a Friday and the big May Day festival for all the community on that following Saturday. So it's that time of the year for those things to start taking place. It's happy. It's happy stuff. It's positive stuff. Everybody likes this stuff. It's very good for us. And that's all I have for an announcement.
Thank you for the all positive update. Great. Does anyone have any questions before we move on? No? Okay, great. And thank you. And Frank, please take care of yourself. If you need to go off camera, drop off, by all means, please don't feel bad if obviously we'd love to have you, but don't feel, pressure.
I might go off camera because I have to start my IV right now and I really don't want to be on camera doing that, but I will stay on and listen. If you have questions, I will hear you say something and I'll come back. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, great. So moving on, we have some continued business. The first is I am going to make a motion to move to approve the meeting minutes from the March 23rd, 2022 regular board meeting.
Second.
Thank you, Danielle. Any discussion?
Ben's not April, but he did a fantastic job. And April, I hope things are okay with you and your family. And thank you, Ben, for taking notes.
Yes, Ben, thank you. That was quite a relief to just not even have to worry about it. Thank you so much.
Perfect. All those in favor? Great. I'm sorry, Mariah, I did not see your hand. Did you?
I don't think I can vote yet.
Oh, right. I'm sorry, because the paperwork hasn't gone through. Thank you. Okay. Any opposed? Don't think there was anyone. So motion passes.
I abstain.
Sorry, April.
All right, I wrote it down.
Thank you. You've always got my back. I appreciate that. Whenever I think I'm getting the hang of it, there's something I forget. Appreciate that. Okay, and on to the next agenda item. Back in December, we had put together some board goals, and I had taken notes on them with every intention of us to be actively working on them. I know some of us are, some of us have not gotten to them. We had 100,000 things between here and there, it seems like. So I thought we could revisit our board goals, and maybe I could start putting together a Google Doc, and we could talk about timelines, how we want to structure things so that, this doesn't fall off of our radar and we stay, active as per all the goals that were important to us. So with that being said, I will start at the top of the board goals documentation. Scott, you were up first. I had written down transparency from the board as a goal that you were, passionate about, and community cohesiveness was kind of the result. So kind of wanted to check back in with you on if you'd had any more thoughts about that. How do you feel like we're doing? Are we working towards it? What do we need to do more? And what your proposed timeline might be to head in that direction.
Thanks for bringing that up. I still feel strongly about it. I'm not sure we've achieved the goals that I've thought of, but then again, it was a very esoteric kind of vague goal with none action items. So regarding the first, as far as transparency, I think we've taken some steps in that direction. I think I'd like to explore that further, and maybe with Danielle's help, utilize a survey to see what the perception is at this point. Now that we're through a lot of the muddy waters in the first part of the quarter, and see where we stand reputation-wise among the school community. I think that might be helpful just to know how much of an issue it is and what still needs to be done.
Happy to help.
Anyone have any thoughts? Do we feel like a survey is a good way to capture some data and then kind of take the temperature?
I guess I'm always a little extra critical on the utilization of a survey tool, and to assure that, that our goals of what we want to achieve or see is positioned within the questions. I think it's really easy if you don't overanalyze kind of the method of why and how, and if we want a narrative versus a yay or nay, would be something to just continue to look at.
So what are you proposing, Mariah?
I think there just needs to be more clarity of what the goal is. Is the goal to just get a baseline? Is the goal to get some narratives? Would be my kind of recommendation. I think baseline surveys are different than collecting specific language and narratives.
Okay. I think right now we just have a very small sample size of complaints. And so I just want to broaden it out and make it, flush out what those complaints are, and also broaden it out to bring in the people that don't have complaints and mix that into a larger sample. How we do that, I'm completely open toward. A survey may be a way to do it. I'm not sure. I guess you're implying there's going to be some bias in the survey. So specifically, what would you like to avoid?
No, I wasn't suggesting that. I think just whenever tools are used and utilized, we should just have kind of an end goal of what it sounds like you want to just get the temperature of how things are going out there.
That's exactly it.
That sounds like a good idea to get a baseline. as an idea, maybe come back with the survey questions to the board, and then we can kind of chat those through. Because I know I've taken surveys before. Like if I survey my kids, and I'm like, "Do you like homework? Yes, no." I mean, they're gonna say no. I don't know how. I mean, maybe some kids will say yes, but not my kids. So I think, Mariah, if I'm not misunderstanding you, I think that the way we kind of pose the question too, that we're not trying to pose it in a way to get a specific response, would be good. Maybe just open-ended questions rather than yes/no questions. And maybe that's like, how do you feel like the board's doing? Do you feel like there's enough transparency? What are some strengths? What are some weaknesses? And maybe I don't need to overthink it too. What do you guys think about that?
Sure, we can come up with a lot of ideas, and I think it should be by committee and not some rogue kind of survey that just leaves irresponsibly. Sure.
Great. So do you have maybe a time frame in mind where you guys can pull that together? Would you be able to kind of present something next board meeting, or is that too soon? I don't want to put an unreasonable time frame on you guys.
My situation right now is a little bit crazy, so I'd maybe 2 board meetings.
Okay. Yeah, it's totally fine. Again, I want to make it something that, is attainable. So let me look at my schedule here. If today is the 6th, so maybe on May 4th or 18th.
I think, Danielle, since I volunteered you, does that sound like something we might be able to pull together, at least something to show the board?
Yes, and I was curious if we are solidifying the brunch, if we can have an interactive, if somebody actually wants to fill one out in person or turn it in or talk with one of us on campus, that we could be more face-to-face on that too.
Concerned then that whoever is having those conversations would have to then report all of that, and then you're saying what someone else said and it's being filtered.
Well,
so
be more of a sheet, not more of a conversation, but like a sheet that would be done for people who are on campus or would be open to doing that versus the email route.
Okay, but then you're also asking someone then to scan all of those, turn those into the board, because we all need access to this. If we're getting a baseline, we all need to be seeing it. I think it's just simply put it all on a Google form that we can all access. If we're all a part of it, we can look at the questions one by one. We can look at the individuals, see what they have to say.
Yeah, and point too, and the brunch is more a function of parent council and animal care. So I don't want people to kind of associate. I want clear data on board. So that's my only thought about doing it at the brunch. Maybe. So
I don't know that I want to push in on that. It's not our event. I don't know. I would rather ask permission for something like that. But I personally would just like it to all be digital and all come in the same format. I think that simplifies things.
And I get, Danielle, what you're doing to have the optics of transparency and approachability and things like that. But I think for this, I'm really more interested in controlling it a little bit to see who responds and who doesn't respond. And so we have actual data on the enrollment, rather than just another
more coverage,
long list of complaints that we get from random people.
Okay.
Great. So did the May 4th or May 18th board meeting sound? Which sounded better for you guys?
For me, the 18th sounds better only because things are really upside down for me right now. But if you're looking for something quicker, I can push for earlier.
No, not at all. It's totally up to you. I just wanted to kind of restart the conversation because I presented the idea and then, it's been a couple months. So just want to make sure we're making progress.
May 18th is fine. I'll probably have events for the 4th or around the 4th, 5th.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let's see, what's next? Nellie, yours is up next. Your goal was working with admin and teachers to ensure we're following our Waldorf curriculum. You wanted to measure that by increase in Waldorf certified teachers, Dr. Darian reports. and didn't know if you had any more thoughts on, execution or reporting, how we track those metrics.
I don't, but I am. I always am keeping the conversation up with Frank and Dr. Darien in regards to our summer training and making sure that, hoping we can solidify getting that certified for our Waldorf teachers. And I've been talking to a lot of the teachers on campus to make sure, and with Frank and Dr. Darien, to make sure that the ones that went through the first cycle are going to be going back through to the second cycle, and the ones that haven't gone through yet will be going through. I'm sure Frank is tired of hearing me ask about Waldorf trained teachers. It's just really, having 4 kids in the school and our panel being full of parents, it's just really important, I think, that we have Waldorf trained teachers. I think that we have a gem. We have, and I've said this before, we are one of 3 charter schools in the whole country that go pre-K through high school. And I think that we have the ability to capture and have a full school through the high school. And so the importance of having Waldorf trained teachers, I think it's important. I've had conversations. Oh, go ahead, Frank.
Hey, I have some good news on that front. So in the budget process, I made clear to Monique that I'm looking for 3 things: a certain percentage increase for staff, professional development money, so that I know you know this, a first grade teacher ending this year typically goes to a class of professional development for second grade so they get and understand the Waldorf curriculum. I believe the site we use is Gradalis, which is nationally certified through Waldorf. And she knows I need money to pay for all of my teachers to take one of those classes. And we're this close, guys. I should know the answer to that at the next board meeting, but my staff is excited to hear that would be that professional development. It's usually about $400 or $450 a class. And I've been able to try and carve some of that out. So we know that each year, that teacher who hasn't taught third grade before will get that curriculum presented to them in a professional development format. They get a certificate from the class, all the good stuff that goes with it. And I'm this close to making that happen.
Frank, I've also, and I've had this conversation with you, I've also wanted to make sure we also had emphasis on our teacher training for on the high school level.
Correct. They will get to pick their training, because the high school ones aren't by grade, it's by topic.
Right.
So there's an English topic, a math topic, and no one's going to be exempted from the professional development teachers. There's even special ed training. So I am carving out enough money to pay for that. I want to make that happen each summer, because next year the third grade teacher will need fourth grade, and the year after that they'll need fifth grade. And of course, this is on top of our Waldorf training for our second year on staff and our brand new teachers. Excuse me. The summer training that we're doing.
Right.
So yes, I'm looking at all forms of professional development there. And I think that will be very helpful. As you know, the new teachers, while they're trying to learn their way through Waldorf, that doesn't necessarily mean they get any training in the actual grade level. And so that's what we're going to provide for them this summer as well.
Okay. So yeah, Kirsten, I'm in his ear every day about this. So
yeah, no, that's great. I just, from a board goal perspective, I want to be able to make sure we're documenting and then kind of presenting it as well. Like, these are our goals. This is how we performed on them, so that we can kind of also, kind of self-assess, like, are our goals reasonable? Are we meeting them? Are we not? Like, how do we, kind of build this going forward? So, I guess, how do we?
Right. There's no way that I can say building is going forward other than offering support, to whatever Frank needs for, even if it's making sure there's coffee there during the teacher training. I'm not sure, but I think it's important that we continue to have the teacher training at our school, and we'll bring in other teachers from other schools, and it will continue to foster our teachers getting certified. Hopefully we'll get that certification.
Great. So maybe there's something there. How can the board continue to support the teacher training above and beyond, how we already are? Do you have any visions on that? I mean, if you want to think about it some more too, mull it over. It's not, this isn't a, I need an answer, today sort of a session. I just, kind of want to breathe life back into our goals now that we're through chaos.
I mean, I guess it could also be along the lines of supporting the teachers themselves and making sure that they're cohesively working together and feel like a teaching community unit. I don't know where they stand on that right now. I'm not sure. Would it maybe be helpful to have like an LDC update every once in a while so they can kind of, I know that we have student council come in and, kind of give us an update, and, Michelle's always giving us a parent council update. Might that be something that's helpful since they're, really I think that would be amazingly helpful, because I've been on the board almost a year and I've never had I've never seen an update come in. I feel like they just deal directly with Frank. So there's so many different branches to this umbrella. And it would be nice to see if they need anything, if the LDC has their pulse on the teachers as a whole, if they need any support from the board. We
can certainly ask and see if that's something they might be interested in. Do you want to kind of take the lead on reaching out?
Reach out? I know that John and Jean are on the LDC. Is there anyone else? I know that there were a couple of teachers that left. I don't know who else is a part of the LDC.
We have Heather Sullivan from EC, Jean Falkenberg and John from the grades, Christy Martin from the high school, and Paula Cummings from the high school, and Dr. Derry.
Great.
Thanks.
So Nellie, do you want to maybe report back on the next meeting or the following?
Yeah, I will touch base with them. And I would love to, even if they're willing, invite one of them to the next meeting or the meeting after to give an LDC report. I think that's important. Great. Perfect. Thank you.
That sounds like a nice goal. Okay. Wonderful. Moving on. Mariah, you have like a really big one. So it was strategic planning for the next 3 to 5 years. I doubt we're going to hash that out right here, but wanted to see, your thoughts on how can we start moving that forward? What can we be doing as a board? Do you need help? How can we, kind of help do the heavy lift of this?
I was just talking to someone about this morning. So I don't feel like I'm the designated person to champion strategic planning. It needs to come from the board president and the executive director. That would be your ownership of taking that method and approach to getting some goals and objectives. Everything that we're talking about, we're trying to get temperatures, we're trying to get assessments, we're trying to get goals completed. That would exist in a strategic plan. But I would not champion that. I would support a strategic plan, but that will probably be my ongoing recommendation for this board, is for there to be a solid document that the board president and the executive director can really position and tether this board to.
Okay. Great. All right. Well, I am willing to champion that. Frank, I hope that you're willing to do that with me.
No, this is totally appropriate. This
Good.
will keep us in line. Yeah, I have experience doing this in other districts as well. So whenever we can carve some time out, Kirsten, let's you and I get started, and then we give updates to the rest of the board and what a beginning document looks like, and we keep adding to it and get input from them. Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Can I add? I mean, I think maybe a minimal frustration, but just kind of because there isn't this tool of there has been a lot of work. There has been, it's not like people have been not trying. I think everyone in the school is doing the best that they can. And I don't want to continue to produce subjective kind of goals or thoughts when then there should be kind of a place where we position all of the efforts that are being made so that there's no question of what have we done? What are they doing? But I do think that there, a lot of times I feel like in this group in the community, there's not a lot of credit for, I think the people are doing the best that they can. And I think we've taken bold strides. We just got through the pandemic. That things are, I think, changing and hopefully towards the positive.
Thank you for bringing that up. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Danielle.
As far as I can remember, we've always had a long range plan and a 3 to 5 year goal. And we had working documents that we were on track and who were serving on those committees if needed. As far as I can remember, we've had that.
You know where those are housed that we could maybe use that as a model to go off of?
So I have the old ones before I was a board member. I'll take a look to see if those are interactive or in a PDF form, but those were probably from 2012.
Yeah, I want to say, Kirsten, the last one that I received when I joined the board was from around that time frame. And I have a printed out document, but I'm happy to scan it and send it to you. This looks like a PowerPoint, really. It's like a slide deck. Mm-hmm. But it might be helpful just to look at the topics. And I know every board president has started and stopped this process. So I have varying documents that I'm happy to do a search and send them to you, but they're all in very, very beginning, early stages. But sometimes it's helpful just to see something and have an idea of, okay, this is what I want to use or don't want to use, and then, look through the topics and go from there.
Can you send that to me also, April?
Sure. Whatever I drudge up on the drive, I will send it your way.
Yeah. And then we can just kind of hash through it, and there might be some nuggets there for us to kind of pick up from, or, it will be good to just see kind of what the framework looked like in the past. And if there's anything we need to, keep, or if we just start over. Okay, great. So I am big on setting deadlines so that I can hold myself accountable. I don't know that we can get everything wrapped up or anything to update by the April 20th meeting, but I will commit us to and please feel free to jump in and stop me, Frank, for the May 4th meeting. We'll kind of provide an update that should give us enough time to dig through stuff. Okay. All right. Great.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I was typing. I missed that. What did you just agree to by May 4th? I agreed something that I don't know.
I agreed to at the May 4th meeting for Frank and I to present an update. On like maybe the basic framework of the starting, at least having committed to going through the documents and kind of giving an update with more than just, oh gosh, that time flew by. We really didn't do anything yet.
Okay. All right. I will aim for 1 week from today to find those documents for you and give it to you.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. Next one is Ben and April. It was a development director. And Ben, if this kind of ties into your agenda item, we can kind of wait for that too. I didn't know, how much we want to share there, but.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I can talk just a little bit about what we've done so far.
Sure.
Mariah and I have been putting together a development calendar, just getting all the grants in a spreadsheet and looking at due dates and whatnot. I submitted the first grant that I wrote just the other day. So we should hear back about that in like a month or so. And hopefully that's the first of many, and hopefully we get it. But I think, yeah, we're planning that out. I'll talk about the motion in a little bit when we get to that. But I think we're on track for at least like putting together something. I mean, I think the important thing right now is that we develop something like a development plan for the entire year, just so that it's not event by event kind of planning. I think that's it's fine to do events, but I think that having in mind the sort of like larger goals of like where we want to be and incorporating events within that larger strategic vision is really important to get this off the ground, so that it's not just like one-off events and like a more systematic fundraising effort. And I think the hope is still, as I said sort of before at the goals meeting, to get like a body of work together, to get some grants in, to get some grant language, to have a kind of plan for the year, and then maybe eventually pass it off to someone whose job it is to execute the actual plan.
Okay, great. Thank you. I know you guys have been putting a lot of work into that already, and I'm sure it's going to really benefit us in for many years to come. Do you want to commit to any kind of date of where maybe you share the repository or the calendar or the plan with the board? Does that even make sense for this?
I mean, maybe it would be best to talk about the motion that I had later.
Okay.
And then I don't think it makes sense to put a date on it right now. I think that like we can probably have something together by the end of the semester though.
Okay, fair enough. Great. And next is Danielle. It was contemplation and continuance and addressing items outlined in the exercise. Did you want to expand on any thoughts there or metrics, timelines?
Sure. It would be helpful to review the matrix just to see where we've felt like we've again completed all those categories, but the contemplation group is still active. The next meeting will be April 13th, and that'll be via Zoom at 7:30. And also finding out who would want to continue, do the same people stay on? Do we pass that baton over? Just to make sure we're effective and that we're supporting one another and pushing forward. And a lot of the conversations that needed to happen did, but we also don't know if there's a lot of need with the past 2 years we went through in supporting again one another and the gap. The next step, again, I'll have more information from April 13th and looking at the matrix to see if there's anything else we would like to check off or expand upon.
So as far as translating to like a board goal, is it just like confirming that we've checked off all the items that we felt like we should as a board?
So number one, yes.
Okay.
That would be part of that goal. Second would be, are the same representatives continuing? It was me and John and I. And the third, for what comes out of the April 13th meeting to see what transpires.
Okay, and I might be confused here. I thought the contemplation was kind of like it was finished.
So it's a work in progress. It was never designed to be ended. It was always to be a work in progress for any healing and community building that needed to continue and be developed. And it was to promote the healing of the community and restoration. But that again is always a work in progress. It's not something that, or at least for me with dealing with relationships, it's ongoing. We want to make sure that it's always a two-way communication and that we're here for each other.
Kirsten, I'm with you. I believed that we did our part. I know my staff has expressed to me that they don't want to continue going to meetings, that they did that 2-month situation of meetings and Zooms and breakout sessions, and they felt it was very successful, and that we've moved on from it. I did meet, last meeting we talked about this, and I said I would meet with Barb Cunningham, and we did. We had a very nice meeting in my office, and I basically said this to her as well, that my staff really feels done. If they want to do something new, I think it would have to be a new directive from the board to say, because the contemplation is done. If you want something else to happen, I'm going to have to find new staff to do this. The staff that served on that are not interested in moving forward. They feel like they've done their part. They met their criteria of what was expected from staff. And they don't have a problem with someone in the pillars talking to each other if something is going awry or if something slipped back into an old pattern, but they do believe that it is completed. And I hate to put John on the spot, but obviously he's a staff member and a board member. And if he would take a minute to confirm that I'm not wrong in stating it that way, I just want to make sure that that's the way I heard it as well. Mr. Tanner?
Thank you, Mr. Maurizio. So nice to see you. You've been missed on the campus, and we look forward to you coming back. So you've been in our prayers, and we continue to pray for you and your swift recovery. So
thank you, John. Thank you.
Please know that. Yeah, absolutely. I think you spoke it correctly. If there are staff members that want to participate in something of that nature, then I agree that would have to be a new directive from the board. And yet I hear, Danielle, that, there was this idea that, we want the healing to continue. It's not just like, oh, okay, it's over, everybody's fixed. So there is that part of it. I want to honor what both of you are saying this evening.
I too agree with what Danielle's saying, that what we learned about each other in that process must continue, and it must spread to people who are not on that committee. And that is something those of us on the committee are responsible to. We model it. We speak that language. We get others to follow. I'm talking about the commitment to more Zoom meetings or more summer meetings. I do not believe my staff is interested in continuing down that road.
I specifically remember Teresa saying that this is an ongoing thing. It's not just the summer. It is, it should continue without her. And, we may be bringing others into it, and that wouldn't be a bad thing, but that we should continue this. And she said, it was like 30 days, 90 days, and years to go. So I do understand that, some staff and even parent volunteers and stuff like that are done with it. And maybe that they've had their healing and whatever, but there's still other community members, other staff members and whatnot that that can be brought into it. So I agree with Danielle. That's how I interpreted it from Teresa.
Michelle, I remember hearing more so the language of that accountability measures and metrics to keep the community accountable, but not necessarily in the contemplation series. or even the process of contemplation, that had a start and end. And then we were doing these 30, 60, 90, whatever check-ins to hold the community accountable, but not necessarily doing the work of contemplation.
And John, may I ask you a question? Are you very familiar with the child study? Is that usually an end point as well when that occurs?
I'm not sure I understand the question, Danielle.
The contemplation was built around the similar of the child study when that's done with faculty based on a student. Do you remember that also having an actual ending point?
A child study normally happens over 3 sessions, and then it ends. It starts and then it ends. So I don't know if that's really a direct parallel, but that's an answer to the question regarding child study.
And what period is that usually? The 3 sessions?
It's usually over a 3-week period. So we would open it the first week, the second week, and then the third week. I mean, very roughly, the first week is you're forming a picture of the child. The second week, you're looking at, you're going a little deeper with the child. And then the third week, the other participants are bringing recommendations and reflection. And all that time, all the people in the child study are holding the child and forming a picture of that child in its highest form. So I don't know if that's too woo-woo for you, but that's the general idea. Does that make sense, Danielle?
Yes, and that's exactly what I was asking.
Yes,
Thank you, John.
Okay.
So I will.
Yes, ma'am.
If it's okay, then I will, at the April 13th contemplation, bring all of your thoughts forward and find out if, yes, we want to take a new directive, or if a lot of them want to just continue as is, then we can just measure our completion as the matrix items, recommendations, suggestions marked off if we feel confident that we've done our part for that.
Danielle, if the board is in agreement with me, I think there needs to be, from the board, credit for what was done. I don't want our ask or thought of ending doesn't negate the magic and what happened. And I don't want it to be a negative of the recommendation of concluding. I want it to hear that we honored that space, and a lot of work is still happening, and it's not a negative of wanting, but I would like some closure in starting other work from kind of that core of last summer or 2 summers ago. A couple of years ago, I don't know.
I like that. I think it's lovely to celebrate the success and the time that was put in by so many people for contemplation. And then it's not that good work can't continue, but is it truly board work? Is it work that the board should be spearheading, or is it more community oriented? Is it a separate group of folks? That lovely exercise that took place, was it 2 Saturdays ago? Was beautiful, and that wasn't a board initiative. It wasn't a parent council initiative. It was, kind of an initiative of wonderful community members that took action. So maybe that's the way to go. Mr. Tanner, yes, please.
In the old days, and oftentimes at other Waldorf schools, you will have what is called a care group that is doing roughly the work that the contemplation group would be doing. and they would be looking at some of these deeper issues that the school is having and working through them on a different plane than what's happening day to day with the comings and goings of the students. It's more of I don't really want to call it a college of teachers, but it's sort of like the contemplation group, and that's an idea for the board or the school to consider. We used to have one a very long time ago. I don't know if anyone remembers, but just a thought for your consideration. And Joan will know what that is. So if you ask Joan, she'll far more eloquent detail than I.
Danielle, might that be, kind of a good goal is that something that you'd be interested in initiating that care group? And
so again, I wouldn't want to make that decision for the contemplation group because we really have been making decisions jointly. And I agree that it is a board initiative. It is a faculty initiative. It is a parent initiative because we all wanted to come together to make sure we were moving forward. And whatever, again, if we board feels like we have met with all of the recommendations, if we feel like we're in a good position to say, yes, we've completed, then I think it would be worthwhile to go in to say, what is the next steps? Whether that means we're taking a new directive or if the contemplation group feels that they wish to continue, it is, and it has always been on a voluntary basis.
Okay, great. So it sounds like on that 413 meeting, you'll maybe talk that over and see kind of what options come up out of there. And possibly would you be willing to, on the 20th, maybe present the metrics?
Yeah,
and then we can kind of work through that. Okay, great.
And I'll even do that beforehand. I'll do that probably the evening of the 14th. So if there is something we need to work on and maybe we have some completion before then, we can have more to decide on.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you all.
Okay. Mr. Tanner, your board goal was training from the state on compliance laws, being able to complete training, a more educated board on those standards. I know that April has been working on some of that too, so I didn't know if you had any additional thoughts or dates, ideas.
What I have to report on that is no progress, in all honesty. So
okay.
That's where that stands. However, as a sideline to that, I would like to reflect to the board that the faculty has been working in unity to engage with the community, and a result of those efforts are the May Day offering, where we are inviting the community to come to Desert Marigold and experience on a Saturday morning an opportunity to come and enjoy the company of others, enjoy the Maypole, experience the Maypole. And other faculty members have some offerings. Mr. Maurizio has a surprise or two for us. I won't spoil that for you, Mr. Maurizio. I'll let you have your thunder. And you don't have to bring any money. Just bring yourselves and enjoy. So, not to deflect from my negligence, but I did want the board to understand that some other very important work has been happening, and we're just delighted to see everyone on the morning of April 30th, which is a Saturday morning, 8:30 to about 11, and go home and have a nice afternoon.
Mr. Tanner, if I can add to that, this is really something that stems from what the three pillars did in the progress of work at the contemplation, because one of the things the parent pillar asked of the staff is, we want to be back on campus more. We want to have events. We want to be invited. And so this is a perfect correlation of the staff picking a time and planning something that is part of a follow through from that, what that pillar told the staff pillar, we recommend or we suggest doing more stuff like this. So it really shows that the staff pillar is taking it a step further to continue those type of things that came from the contemplation without directly coming from the contemplation. They didn't say do a May Day. They just said, we really want to be back on campus. We want to feel welcome, with that type of thing. And so this is just one way of doing that, that I can at least see and feel and touch and say, see, this is happening because of the communication of those three pillars at the contemplation.
Thank you. Mr. Tanner, is there anything that we can do as far as metrics or timelines where we can, I know April's done a lot of research and there wasn't a whole lot there as far as training, but didn't know if there was any thoughts or ideas that you had or avenues that you could suggest.
Again, I don't want to put her on April, but I'm grateful that she took that up independently. And I know years ago, the board used to go through these trainings and they would have someone come from the state and we'd spend, an hour, maybe an hour and a half. They'd help us understand the open meeting laws, what's appropriate in a meeting, what's not appropriate. And that was my hope, that we could reproduce that experience or another of its kind. Laws change over time, and I want to make sure that we're compliant in our actions so that everything is lawful. But I will get on the ball, and I will get something for you. I promise this time.
No, I totally understand. It's been a lot. There's a lot going on. So again, not to hold anybody's feet to flame. Just want to make sure we stay on task. And yeah, I mean, even if you can dig out that person. Yeah, go ahead, April. I'm sorry.
Sorry, Kristen. I think that what I went to was what replaced perhaps what Mr. Tanner was talking about, because I'm in my third year on the board and that never happened for me as a board member. And as far as I know, I missed one training opportunity that happened over the summer that was from ASBCS. But everything else that was done, we reached out for individually. I joined the board with two other people and we made arrangements with Danny Garone. He did a live session with us to do open meeting law training. But after that, there wasn't anything coming from the state. And I know that Gregory looked into it. I looked into it and they didn't have anything. But now they have this charter rep, what do they call it? A boot camp training, which is what I went to. And whenever that was, I don't know, sometime this year, it's all blur. But they did say several people on the ASBCS board who were doing the training said that the general idea is to continue these trainings and then open it up to general board members, and then hopefully even open it up further, because there was a training on what to do when a pop-in visit happens. Well, I'm not going to be there when there's a pop-in visit. So they were like, well, the office staff needs to be trained in this. And granted, I have a slide deck from that training that I'm still working on gathering all of those materials. I'm going to put them in a drive that everyone can have access to. So it sounds like they maybe reinvented themselves and they are trying out new things and seeing what works. But I think they definitely know that there's training that needs to be done. And Kirsten, I know you and I have talked about this. We're constantly adding to Gregory's playbook. I learned sink or swim style, how to file amendments. It was not fun. I don't want anyone to go through what I went through. So I went through step by step. Go to this website. Here's the link. Click on this button. Put in this form. I mean, I went step by step by step. And that's very time consuming. But I think it's necessary because my term's up in November and I don't know who's going to be available for me to train or not train or who has the time. So I want this all in writing so that when I exit stage left, someone can open up a document and go, oh, this is what I do. And not have to make 10 million calls or go to all these different trainings and seek them out. It'll all be right there. So that is the goal. So there is progress. It's just slow moving and hard to come by and confusing, but we're trying to simplify it. I would just say anyone who hasn't looked at the open meeting law booklet in a while or watched the video, just refresh. That's always helpful. I know I printed mine out. I've got it spiral bound. I use it as a reference book. So just do what you can to stay on top of that stuff. And the ASBCS website itself some of the stuff is written in Greek, but some of it's pretty explanatory. So just take a look through all those files and see what you can learn until I can get my act together and put all those slide decks in a folder for you.
Thanks, April. And Mr. Tanner, you had another goal on there as well for programming, particularly around the middle school.
That is a continuing effort in the middle school. We are getting our feet underneath us. That's a big function of budget. Who can come in and provide those services? I would also include the high school in that statement as well. So those are really functions of money, unfortunately. So we're in the budgeting season, and those discussions are coming up.
Would you be?
Yes,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say middle school is more complex in that the students need more activities. Let us just say. I could go into it in more detail, but they need more to do. They're bigger, stronger, faster, and they sounds like the bionic man. But in some ways they are kind of like that, and they get into mischief unless they really are their energy is directed in a positive way. We want to ennoble all of their energies and gifts into positivity, and I would include the high school there. Not that there's anything wrong with the high school, but we used to have things like didn't we have that man who was doing jewelry making, and we used to have iron working, Danielle, and there was pottery, and there were some other things as well. So I would like to see that expand, 6 through 12, 7 through 12, very much so. I think it's absolutely critical, and I think the wood shop is a step in the right direction. Anyway, to get off topic, but we're working on that. We're working on it.
Okay. Do we want to put any kind of a goal or a baseline or time frame around it?
Well, I think we could make a time frame saying that when the budget starts to appear, that we should be asking what improvements have been made for at least the middle school, since that was my initial task. I don't want to get out of my lane, but I did want to mention and also include the high school in terms of that picture. I'd like to make as many contributions there as possible. So I would say in terms of the time frame, let's evaluate it at the budget, and that's coming up. So that's May, June.
Yeah,
that has to be finalized. Yeah. So
okay,
I can take it that far anyway.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, next was Dan Franks. He was not able to attend the meeting tonight, and I also he sent me a lot of information by email, but I failed to put that on the document. So I will commit to putting that on the document, and we'll circle back around with him next meeting. As the final board goal, that was mine, and it was just that the playbooks for all of the officers that we have, those ready to go. April spoke to that very eloquently. Thank you, April. We've been starting to work at that or continue Gregory's good work of, how do you do this? Where is this? How, just all of the little small job functions that get lost from one member to the other if there's not an opportunity for training, because there's a lot of things, and it's easy to miss re-registering the DBA document, or, who's the legal team? How do I contact them? All of those different things. So that is a work in progress. I don't know if I can commit to a date of completion at this point in time, but we will continue to work on it. It really, like, is something new always crops up.
We write it down. What we wish someone had told us, we write it down and put it in a document.
Yeah, so maybe just for accountability, I will provide an update on, kind of where we are, especially from the officer perspective. But if there's anything that you do as a board member, we all wear so many hats and do so many things. If there's anything that you've kind of taken on and are just kind of doing in the background, please document it somewhere so that, should your term complete and you move on, that, it doesn't kind of fall through the cracks until it catches on fire and somebody has to deal with it. So I will commit to providing an update. Let's see, I don't think we've pushed anything out till June. Let's make that the June 1st board meeting. Okay. So we are sorry, running a little later on agenda, but I think we can catch this up pretty quick. The next subject was the board applicants. We did not have any board applicants this time, so we will not be conducting interviews. And my last item was
sorry, can I add that?
Oh, please. Sorry. Any discussion? Any thoughts?
Yeah, it was a throwaway comment earlier, but my term is up in November. And since we do not have any applicants, that means that our secretary is currently sitting in this Zoom room. So as I am planning and writing things, if you are interested in possibly putting your name forward for that position, and if you want to let me know now, I'm happy to start training on the fly. I say work alongside me, apprentice, and then you won't have to fall into the fiery pit when you take on this job. I just figure I'm here now. Let me train you. We'll do it together.
Thank you, April. Yes, so please reach out to April if you're interested. Moving on to the property appraisal, we have finally received the appraisal that we just went through. So I am very, very excited to report that it came back for the 3 parcels of land, or the full campus, which is 3 different parcels. We came back at $3,860,000 as the appraised value, which is more than double the loan amount. So that is really great news for us from a financing perspective, from a loan perspective, and I just wanted to share that with you. We have I'm going to sign the refinance paperwork tomorrow, and so hopefully that will all be buttoned up and squared away, and we can start focusing on all of our other goals.
Great job, Kristen. I know that was a lot of work. I know what Gregory was going through to start it and what you did to finish it. This is a relief and really wonderful news that our assessed value has gone up so much. That's awesome, awesome news.
Thank you.
And Kirsten, thank you very much for your work. I didn't see the proposal. Did you not share that with us?
The proposal,
from Desert Financial.
we don't have, I mean, I could share the initial proposal, but all of those numbers have changed. So once I sign all the documents, happy to share that as well.
So was that a locked, or did that rate float until tomorrow?
It's locked at 4% for 30 years.
And that's SBA or conventional?
Oh, I don't know off the top of my head. I will have to get back to you on that one.
Okay, and the proposal has the overall cost and the cost structure?
Yes, it has. It's everything's outlined in many, many pages.
And was your signature the only one required?
Yes.
Okay, I would like to see the proposal, please. Even if it's changed, but they didn't send you any preliminary before you sign tomorrow?
I think there's some in my box, but I honestly have not had a chance to look at it from this afternoon. We were
send that over. I'm happy to look at it. Thank you. And I would like to look at it.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. I know that was a lot of heavy lifting, so congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it'll be good savings for us, and it's nice and safe, so that we don't have to keep going through this every few years. Okay, great. So on to our new business. Danielle, your agenda items are up first with board education. Oh, I think you're still on mute.
I sure am. I've been back on my feet, so I appreciate your patience throughout some of my family items that I needed to take care of. And I've just jumped right in. Every Friday, the Anthroposophical Cafe meets via Zoom. They, of course, used to be in person. And so every Friday, there is a speaker, and it can also be on replay. But for March 18th, there was Isabel Sputnik, who spoke about the Waldorf Initiative School that went into Pine Ridge on the reservation. And I was incredibly inspired. I actually was moved to tears. And every time she was discussing how the school came out to be, I was like, that was us. Yes, yes. And seeing some of the parallels and the work that we are able to move forward with. Again, I recommend that. I can put that link. I don't know. I know Barb sometimes shares those on the community page, but that one was just so moving. And again, spoke to me about the outreach and the community that we serve. So they're also from Waldorf Today. Hopefully a lot of you read some of those articles, but I was really captured by the article on the form initiative, continuity, and warmth, and how we can bring that into our daily life as well as into the schools, and again, expanding on to all areas. So there's a series of questions that I'd like to share with, and I didn't get to put those in the drive, I don't think, because I sent those to you, Kirsten, but it would be nice if we spent some time to either answer those as a group or individually, and then bring them about for discussion. And again, also a baseline of where we are, what our vision is for the school, how we can support our growth in the programming, because so much of it is related to one another. And again, I was moved by her outreach, and it's an inspiring video that I hope you can all watch and enjoy as much as I did. There's also a study group that is starting tomorrow. They will start a new book, and the philosophical study group here in Arizona. So anyone is open to that. It's ideal if you have the book, because they will take turns reading, but not required. And that, again, for any of our personal growth, and even though they meet weekly, it's ideal to have that as a weekly commitment. But if you feel like you're doing study on your own or prefer the group setting, I invite you at least to check in. What else did I have on that? Any questions so far?
I think it would be great if you could share the link, if we could somehow, if it was moving for you, maybe get it out to the broader community. I think that, I don't know if you can send it to Barb. I know she does post frequently, so it might be nice to share that.
Or maybe even through Parent Square, because the Facebook community chat is a very, very small group of community members. Not everybody's there. or even like the DMS Facebook, the official page.
And if I
That might
send
be
that-
a couple.
If I send that through Parent Square, would that be to you or to April who has, or do I have access also?
I have access as the official DMS board. I don't know that it needs to come from the board or what. I don't know how you guys feel about where that communication needs to come from. Or Michelle, is that something that maybe we could
Do you
send
want
out
it
through
to
Parent
come
Council?
through? We can send it through Parent Council. I mean, it is parent education type of
That's true.
thing, which falls under Parent Council. So,
And
Yes.
our mission and objectives in our bylaws?
yes. So, yes, please send that to myself or Laura or both, or whatever, and we can get that out on Parent Square.
And I can tie that in also, Scott, with you with the transparency also to see, are we all on the same page? Because everyone comes from different beliefs and different reasons why we came to the school. And I find that helpful to find out if we are serving our community and what else we could be doing within our neighborhood.
Wonderful. And then upcoming events was another item, Danielle, that I believe was yours on the agenda.
Yes, so I tied that into the Thursdays, and I will be happy to include that link with Parent Square. I just didn't want it to be too much in one email.
Yeah.
And the replay for the speakers allows you to choose maybe topics that you're most interested in, astrology, anthroposophical medicine, why Waldorf, different topics and different speakers from all over the world. And when you interact with if you watch a live, there's a lecture series, and then there's breakout groups for discussion, and then they come back together for summary. So it is interactive.
Fantastic. Okay, great. So it sounds like that'll be, Michelle, you'll work with Danielle on that, getting that out through Parent Square. It's exciting to have something new. Anything else on that front, or any thoughts from anyone else?
I just wanted to say thanks to Ben and Mariah for your work on the grants. You know that when you guys first got on, I said, this is not my wheelhouse. If you guys are familiar, please do it. And you guys just jumped in. I know it's a ton of work, and I really, really appreciate that you guys are putting the work into it. I think that it's important for our school, and I really have high hopes for the work that you guys are doing, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, and next up, Ben, I put your item on as new business as opposed to motion. Obviously, you can propose motions at any time. I wasn't sure if it's something that we needed to motion or not, so I thought I'll leave it as an agenda item, and then we have some flexibility.
Yeah, I guess I'd like to have it be an official motion just to make it kind of official.
Absolutely.
I'll go ahead and read the original text. The motion is just that we appoint Sophie McCurley to development parent volunteer. It's sort of an invented position, but the development parent volunteer will act as a liaison between parent council, the board, and administration to strategize and streamline fundraising. And I think that, I guess I just want to make the motion because I want to alert everyone that Sophie might be contacting different parties to sort of like get a plan together, and that she will be, if this motion passes, acting in a more official capacity than just as as a parent sort of interested in this stuff. I think this is kind of a no-brainer for us. I think those of you who have been involved with parent council, especially know Sophie. Sophie's family has been at the school for 8 years now. Very involved with the DMS community, has planned winter fairs in the past, so has really been involved. And Sophie approached me saying that she's interested in doing this work and that she has the time to do this work, and that she's been reading a lot about charter school fundraising, and specifically Waldorf charter school fundraising, which is obviously a very specific niche. And I think that we agree that we are in need of a development plan, not just sort of like one-off events, but an actual plan within which a calendar of events is incorporated. And Sophie can help us think that through and has the time to and the knowledge and capacity to do it. So I just wanted to sort of like put it out as a motion, make it official so that Sophie can begin the process of working with us, Mariah and I, the board, administration, staff, et cetera, to begin planning that out.
Kirsten,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mr. Marzio.
for those who may not know Sophie, which I would find hard to believe because Sophie is out there, I would put in a great word saying I have been working with her all year on soup to nuts. For staff, for kids, for families. She is positive. She is bright. She rolls up her sleeves and gets to work. And I just want to put in a good word before you vote on that type of thing.
Can I ask a quick question about the position itself? Ben, I'm sorry if I missed something. What are the terms and what is the process and how is it outlined as a position?
We have a motion on the floor that has not been seconded.
He read it, so I feel like we just at this point we're still discussing, and before I think we should just continue discussing, and then he can say it again. And I'll do the motion and the vote because we're so far into the discussion now. He's going to have to reread it again anyway.
Sorry, I'm a little bit lost. Should I answer that question or should I re-motion and have it seconded?
Yeah, once we finish discussion, we'll re-motion.
Yeah, let's talk. Let's
Okay.
talk it all.
We're not doing it in order right now.
Okay. No, I mean, there are no terms to the position. I think that, I talked to Sophie about this the other day, and I think that we're in agreement that this is work that should eventually be handed off to a development staff person, a development director possibly. At which point a lot of like our work, my work, Mariah's work, Sophie's work will sort of like be completed. Maybe there's some committee that's formed afterwards, but the hope is to hand off this work when we hire a development person, whenever that's possible to do and when it makes sense. And I guess I wanted to motion it officially just less because I'm interested in this being like, a specific committee or a specific position with like terms and obligations, et cetera. But more as just sort of like notice to all parties involved, the board, administration, et cetera, parent council, that Sophie will be doing this work of sort of helping us put together a development plan. As far as just the purview of the position goes, I don't think that Sophie, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I don't think that Sophie would do anything, would sort of just like come up with a plan by herself or with Mariah and I without sort of running it by the board first. This would all sort of like come before the board. Whatever work went on behind the scenes would come before the board first before it's then actually executed.
I guess I'm just trying to get my head around. We're voting for a position that has no terms that seems appreciated and needed at the time. But at what point, when it's no longer required, do we undo it? And is there a process there?
We can always vote. We can always motion and vote to undo it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't see our capacity to even appoint this kind of position. Where do you see that fits in with our roles, responsibilities, or duties or powers?
I mean, it's the same as the contemplation or any other initiative. Maybe the language, Ben, is more so it's an initiative to have someone champion fundraising and a directive from the board. So it's not part of board governance. It's not a position that's within the bylaws. It's that we want to champion a person that can really lead fundraising from all different facets within the community.
And is there a reason why we're designating one person versus opening this up to the community or interviewing, or or finding out from parent council who they would recommend? Is this work that's not already being done?
If I can answer that in my struggle, I could see moving forward as far as writing grants. It's almost like I don't know what the other hand is doing. So I even attempted to write one grant, and I think I was texting Michelle. I was secretly trying to figure out from staff what is the need and what are other things going on. It was really hard to just find grants, which we've done, and write for without the support of understanding what the council's doing, parents are doing, and staff are doing. So if there was someone that was really pretty much the position of development director, championing that kind of coordination, or at least that person that understood what the right hand was doing and what the left hand was doing, would be helpful for me, at least for writing.
I mean, I'll be honest. Like, I think that like the simple way of like framing this is just that Sophie is willing to give a significant amount of time to this, and I think that given that, and given the fact that she has researched this so well, and that she has a proven track record at DMS, I think that we should accept her help. In formulating this plan. Again, this is not a staff position. This is not something that's going to go into the bylaws. This is just helping us formulate a development plan for going forward. So this is the motion is really just a sort of way of formalizing that acceptance. And I wanted it to be formal just so that, again, the board, administration, parent council, et cetera, knows that Sophie will be doing this work with us moving forward. So, I see this as like the formal acceptance of a very large gift, which is Sophie's time and energy and resources.
And so why wouldn't we select Michelle Kratzer for that position?
Because she's busy.
So this will be her last year as parent chair. I mean, why wouldn't it? So if it's going to be a development director position, then it should definitely be a development director volunteer position. I mean, that should be clear. And if we are going to assign someone to that, I think it should be more fair if chosen throughout the community than just one single person. And we've never discussed it before. I don't know that, I'm not saying she's not qualified or not a good candidate, but I don't know why we would lean towards one person versus taking a nice evaluation of what's already being done. And as Mariah mentioned, she was texting Michelle. And of course, I'll let Michelle speak for herself. That was just an example. So if it is a development director position, and again, volunteered, then it should definitely be a development director position, not a parent volunteer or organization to strategize or streamline fundraising. It should be, again, for, if it's funds for like the general fund or for the grant writing, I think that should be more specific. And again, we can decide on if we decide we want to have that position, or if that should be a Frank decision, or if that should be a board decision.
So perhaps, so two things, Ben. I think it would make sense to be clear in your motion about who she's reporting to. So if she's specifically working with you and Mariah, I think we should add your names to the motion. So that way it's very clear that this volunteer is reporting to the board, and the board is then coming to us to report. And second, I think this is very similar to what we did when we asked parents and teachers to, they applied for the advisory panel when we were looking to hire an executive director, but we did the same thing. We put it in a motion to approve these volunteers, and then they were working through me. So we would meet together as a group, and then I would report to the board through email. I would update about our meetings, and then I would also report at actual board meetings. And I think it sounds like that's what you're basically presenting, Ben. Just all of those details haven't been, worked out, which of course, because this is something new for us. So perhaps, I don't know if we vote on, I guess we can vote regardless tonight. But I think ultimately we want I mean, I can only speak for myself. I would love to see something in writing of like what this volunteer position, what the plan is. Obviously that will change and grow, but just similar to a job position, this is what we're asking this person to do. This is who they're reporting to, et cetera, just so that we're very clear about what's happening. But I personally love this idea because it's someone who's going to head it up, who's attached to all of these groups, who can be on campus. And as Frank said, she's got a proven track record. He's given it stamp of approval. I trust his judgment. He works with a lot of parents. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Can I chime in?
Please.
I had time to talk to Sophie about this, and I think that we are very fortunate. I see it as we're very fortunate that she sees the community kind of just needing this one person to tie a bunch of knots together for us. And she has a really good game plan, and she's focused and motivated. And it's, I double checked with her because I said, this is a full-time position and you're stepping up as a volunteer. Are you sure that you want this? And she really sees where there's many points where many facets of the community are struggling. And, she sees that she has the capability to reach out, whether it's welcoming and educating new families. And, if you look through the parking lot, there's license plates from all over the place. And this would be a liaison from the front office and administration to the new families. She wants to, her goal is she wants the school to succeed. And it could be, let me help you find grants and execute people within our greater community that can donate money to the school. Let's help make tangible long-term goals. I see it as a liaison developmental director position. And I think that to be able to have somebody step up and volunteer their time, even if it's for a year, to help get us all on track and make tangible goals. What do we want? How do we want to get them? I think that we should accept the gift that's, that she's presenting to us. I don't think that it was put it out to community. It was, I want to give this to you, rather than I want to give this to you and we say, okay, well, maybe we should break this up and give it to everybody else. I think that she's sitting here ready to deliver and work for us and help administration and help the community. And I think it's amazing that somebody wants to step up and take on this huge position and help us just with communication and communications on all facets.
Just to address a few things. So in an email where Sophie and I corresponded about this possibility, we talked about a few different sort of possible responsibilities. I'll just read a few of those things, like to sort of like to flesh out sort of like the picture here. So consulting with administration and the board to develop an annual campaign based on the school's big picture needs, and then facilitating an execution plan, supporting parent communication and education as to how donations and funds are used to uplift the school and their child's journey through DMS, leading interpersonal requests with parents/community members for donations, sustaining donations, volunteer requests and resources, fostering ongoing stewardship of donors and volunteers. That's sort of the kinds of responsibilities, I guess, involved in this role. And April, to your two concerns, one, I guess I would just say that I see this plan as actually offering a little bit more transparency and structure to what Mariah and I have been doing ourselves with like very little oversight thus far. I think part of the hope is that the work that we've put in thus far like becomes an actual plan that goes in front of the board, is approved and whatnot. And I think that Sophie can help us do that. Right now, Mariah and I are just sort of doing things and without a lot of sort of either oversight or sort of large scale planning. I think that Sophie can help us do that. And then the last bit, just to sort of amend the original motion in line with what you said, we can say that Sophie will work with Mariah and I, and that Mariah and I will report to the board on different activities. And maybe it would make sense at some point to invite Sophie as a guest to the board meetings as well.
And so, Ben, when you described those roles, I mean, that sounded exactly what parent council is doing. And Michelle, am I wrong, or am I hearing something differently, or do you want to speak up about that, or is that something you would want to do?
That was exactly my thoughts, that I keep on hearing parent council roles in here. And don't get me wrong, I love Sophie. So if, not against Sophie, but it also sounds more of a parent council thing though, and not a board appointed role, in my opinion. I don't know. I'm confused, I guess, because I didn't hear about it until recently. So I don't know what's going on.
I think it's fundraising for parent council and fundraising for,
but parent
DMS
council does
the parent council chooses where the funding goes. If this person is specifically working or volunteering for the school and the board with the board's goals in mind, then we could designate where that funding goes. This is fundraising for the board, and we would know where the funding goes. So it'd be two separate things, I think, but she would help us coordinate better.
Well,
but if it's
go ahead.
I do understand that there's two totally different, fundraisings with the board and with parent council. Parent council does, under 20,000 typically, where the board is looking for a higher amount. That's absolutely understandable. The thing that's confusing to me is, the grants and everything like that. I've helped with a few of them, including, with Mariah and things like that. And the bigger ones are coming from the board, and the smaller ones are typically coming from parents, or hey, I have this idea, let's look at this grant. Tower Gardens and many other things. So I totally get the fundraising part. But where the parent education, the parent development on, to me, it sounds like when, we first came on, it was Amy Bird who, talked to us. That was a paid position. That was something that she would ask, where would you like to volunteer? How do you want to do that? And that type of thing. And that's something that we have talked about within parent council, that we want to do that. But we've also talked about that needs to be a team, because it's not a paid position. It's a lot of work to put forward on just one person doing that.
Michelle, I get the confusion. I'm seeing a person, anyone, Sophia, John Smith, whoever, to help some of the board grant writing, meaning my capacity is limited. And I really, even the last couple of grants that we've attempted to write, they were really reactionary grant writing that may not be helpful. And I didn't have the time, I didn't have the capacity to really notify you before 30, 45 minutes before the grant closed, or reach out to teachers or reach out to Frank and get all of that solicitation so that I could write. So I see it as a mirroring of some of the things that we're attempting on the board that I can't deep dive into. I can edit grants, I can write and package grants, but I can't do all of the coordination that I think is really necessary to do comprehensive kind of strategic fundraising. Because I know from my experience, even with my agency, we're actually maxing out on a specific grant, a government contract that we can't go, and it's a budget allocation of the whole fiscal year budget, and it's all coordinated within the admin task. And so I don't want to be, I actually don't want to overstep on Frank's toes or the school as a whole, because I don't have the necessary knowledge and tools and time to really get all the synergy going to rate.
Michelle, would you like to serve in this role?
I mean, I don't, you are right. This is my last year as parent council chair. I can still do other things within parent council, but I can't do chair. So that would give me the time. But I also don't want to step on toes either.
I don't see why there couldn't be 2 development directors.
This isn't a development director. Let's
I think we should spruce titles, names. Nope. It's not even a job description. It's a help to help some of our. So I would highly encourage. Like, there's no titles, there's no job description, there's not even a scope of work. It's just an initiative to drive our want and my way and Ben's way to give back to the school. Like, nothing beyond that.
Yeah, just quickly to echo Mariah, this is definitely not a development director position, and I don't think it's even a pseudo development director position. Like, I think that this might be a linguistic issue that we're having here. This isn't trying to cover over an actual development director position. This is really just a parent volunteer who's helping develop a plan that Mariah and I had tried to work on. We're both sort of at our capacity. And Sophie said, I can help you realize that. And so we wanted to accept that help. So it's not a development director position, even in pseudo form. I think that should be clear. The second thing, I do think that if we hired a actual development director, that person would want to incorporate parent council's activities into their overall strategic plan, right? And I think that that's part of what we're proposing here, that we come up with a kind of master plan for thinking about fundraising, not again just in terms of individual events, but in terms of a coordinated effort at raising a certain amount of funds, using different kinds of events to raise funds, but thinking more broadly than that. And that will definitely involve conversations with parent council, and it will involve conversations with the board. It will involve conversations with the administration. And I think that this proposal is really about getting Sophie to help sort of get that all in place. And again, she's very generously offered her time to do so. So it wasn't in any way either meant to, 1, create a new position, or 2, meant to step on any toes. I really think of this as a supplement to what we're doing, not as an impingement upon anything that we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, just to, kind of expand on that, Ben, I'm very appreciative that Sophie would step up and do this, and many hands make light work, right? Danielle, to your point, once it's not that she would be the only person doing this in a vacuum by herself. Michelle, if you have an interest, then I'm sure if, when you have the capacity to take on more of that, then, great. For multiple people to be doing fundraising is amazing. I don't want to slow it down because thus far we have not been successful in fundraising, grant writing, and I feel like if there's too many cooks in the kitchen, everything kind of slows down too. So I like the idea of having a couple people have key things that they do, and they're liaising, right? They're contacting everyone and kind of doing that work to keep everything tied together. It's not someone that would be operating in a vacuum, or a couple people that are operating in a vacuum, but we need the help now. We want strings, we want extra everything. But if somebody's not actively working on it, that money's not going to magically appear. We're going to need to go bigger grants. That's the only way that I can really even envision from a budgetary perspective being able to offer these extra programs. So for me, this seems like she's handing us a golden basket of opportunity. But again, that's just my thoughts on it. I don't think it's something that needs to be done by solely one person. I'm sure it's a lot of work. I'm assuming, I'm speaking for her, but I'm sure she would love additional support as well.
I feel like
Somebody talks about this initiative, again, it just sounds more and more like something Michelle's already doing. I understand we need to expand, and we all.
But Michelle's not writing grants for the board.
But
I feel like it's more of finding, sustaining large monthly donors.
I feel like we're skipping over her, and I feel like she could, and not taking away from what she's doing, but that's how I feel.
Well, Michelle, is it something that you'd be willing to do in tandem with Sophie when you have that capacity? Is that?
Quite honestly, I probably would be working with her tandemly, because a lot of people come to me for, where do I go for this? Where do I go for that? So, I definitely willing to work with her tandemly, and I'll be there.
Do you see any kind of, potential conflict with, parent council fundraising as opposed to, more board fundraising? Is that something that could be done kind of together, or at least collaboratively?
I think it definitely could be done collaboratively. It takes a team to do it. It's not just me that, does parent council. It's a whole team that does it. So, it takes a team to put on an event. It takes a team to write a grant. So I definitely think that parent council and Sophie and the board, we could all work together.
Yeah, that sounds ideal to me. We just kind of need a person to kind of lead the charge and provide the feedback and help mobilize folks when we need the extra help. I'm certainly not the person to do that. So sounds like Mariah and Ben also need additional support, if I'm understanding correctly. And I think it sounds great. And Michelle, if you're available to help now, I don't see why you guys couldn't kick it off together. It just, as my thought, again, just putting out discussion items here.
I guess I'm confused on the liaison part between parent council and the board. I feel like that's I'm already the liaison kind of thing. I already talked to the board, already talked to Frank with administration, Laura, we all do that. So is another confusing thing.
I mean, if there is significant sort of overlap here, I guess so. I mean, first of all, I should just say, like, Michelle, I obviously would have like talked to you about this beforehand. Like, if I had envisioned that this issue would come up, I didn't think about it because the writing of grants and the development and cultivation of sort of like ongoing and like monthly donors, like, you know, something like that, it does seem like a separate thing in addition to what Parent Council does for the most part, though it sounds like there might be more overlap than I had originally like conceived. But, you know, I mean, like I said, like I really did sort of just see this as work that, or as a more strategic implementation of work that Mariah and I were doing, and we're doing with the board's approval, and we're doing, you know, with everyone saying that we should keep doing it, except like with a little bit more strategic implementation. So yeah, I like I said before, I didn't mean to sort of step on toes, and I didn't sort of envision that there would be this conversation about sort of like territorial overlap. But I do think that the sort of like overall fundraising plan for the school is slightly different than the work that Parent Council does, and also involves Parent Council as well in some capacity. And so would be, you know, like working with you to sort of like think about when different events are in the calendar in relationship to different like fundraising goals that we're setting outside of those events, right? But also thinking about just sort of like funding priorities as well, right? Like if we're thinking about applying for a variety of grants, where are the specific areas within the school that we need to dedicate that funding to? And that involves conversations with administration, with staff, and relating all those things to the board. Yeah, I mean, like, unless I don't know something, like I don't think that that's all work that Parent Council does. And the hope was that it would be certainly raising funds just like Parent Council does, but different than that as well. Does that like address your concerns, or are you still worried about like an overlap of responsibilities?
I guess maybe it's the development part of it. I honestly haven't had enough time to even really think about it. I don't. I don't know. A lot of it does sound like Parent Council, and a lot of it, some of it sounds like a totally separate thing, but I'm not quite sure at this point.
What do we think about, I mean, I don't want to push back any work that's being done by Ben and Mariah, but I certainly want Parent Council's stamp of approval on this. We all work together. We always all work together. And I don't think that anyone has any intention of stepping on toes. I think we're all just confused about what this is going to look like. So perhaps we put this motion on the back burner, and in between this meeting and the next, if maybe Parent Council, someone from admin, and Ben and Mariah can get on the Zoom, have a quick meeting to just kind of knock out some details and expectations, and then we're all on the same page. That might be helpful to just kind of clear this up. I'm hesitant to, I think this sounds great, but I understand both Michelle's concerns and Ben's concerns. And I certainly don't want to stop anyone from fundraising or anyone from helping anyone fundraising. But I'm not interested in stepping on any toes or creating any confusion or any more conflict. So I think that's my solution. Maybe if everyone's on board with that.
I mean, April, if I can, my issue with that is that it is stopping fundraising. And I am totally fine with doing whatever is needed for the community to feel comfortable, but we can't continue then to champion that we need dollars, we need strategy, we need capital, we need all of these things, because it is stopping it. It literally is stopping. And maybe there wasn't enough of a dialogue to say, hey, I need help because I don't have the capacity to take this on. Ben doesn't have the capacity, but and we found someone that was willing to help. So I do want to push back a little bit of, yes, it's going to be a few weeks, but it is stopping our wants to really help. And I'm confused as how it's a very separate thing than anything else that's been happening. And it seems like we didn't get this protest when we said we want to take grants on for the board. We didn't get this. And it's essentially the same scope, but just more help because we can't take it on ourselves.
Perhaps we just, maybe we vote, but we have a verbal agreement that there's a sit down. I imagine there needs to be a sit down anyway to chat through all this and make sure I trust everyone's intentions in this group. I certainly don't want to stop fundraising or stop grants at all. But I think it's necessary for a couple people to meet and sit and agree on the terms. So I don't know. I'll leave it up to you, Ben, what you want to do, how you want to change your motion, if you want to make your motion.
Well, that's a good question. So, like in line with what Mariah just said, this was not. So maybe the work that Mariah and I were doing would have opened this organizational can of worms, like eventually, right? Like once we got like organized enough. And I think that if we do end up at the position where we hire a development director, they will definitely work with parent council to plan out the events for the year, right? And to be thinking about the events that parent council puts on within a broader sort of strategic fundraising plan. I think that conversation is definitely going to happen. And I don't know, maybe responsibilities are shifted like here and there in like who takes ownership for what. But that's sort of going to happen regardless. The proposal on the table is, again, really to sort of help Mariah and I do the work that we have been wanting to do for a while and which we think Sophie can help us do. And in that sense, I like Mariah and am kind of confused about like why this didn't come up before when we were talking about development stuff, but now it's coming up. So with that in mind, like I'm sort of just proposing this position as something that can support the work that Mariah and I have been doing and have planned to do. And so I will, make the original motion again that we appoint Sophie McCurley as, I can't find the language now, development parent volunteer who will act as a liaison between parent council, the board, and administration to strategize and streamline fundraising, and will work specifically with Ben Fong and Mariah Moon to report to the board.
I'll second. And also ask Ben, I believe you only changed one line on there. Is that right? I can go back to the original motion, copy and paste.
Yeah. The only addition is just
too fast.
That she would work with Mariah and I.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any more discussion?
Yes, so it would be nice to cut out the parent volunteer liaison if there's, again, she's working to support the two of you. So that should be, at least for right now, that should be explicit.
Any other discussion?
Are we rewording it then to remove parent? The liaison?
It's Ben's
Okay, so,
motion. He doesn't
yeah.
have to. He can do.
Well, maybe,
However you want.
so I understand that the sort of substantive disconnect there. Maybe, yeah, just the board will appoint Sophie McCurley to development parent volunteer who will work with the board, specifically Ben Fong and Mariah Moon, to strategize and streamline fundraising. I think that will necessarily involve working with parent council and administration out of necessity, but that doesn't need to be in the motion.
You want to restate your motion?
I move that Sophie McCurley be appointed development parent volunteer who will work with the board, specifically Ben Fong and Mariah Moon, to strategize and streamline fundraising.
I'll second again.
April, any discussion? No. Okay. All those in favor? And Mariah, we cannot see you, so if you want to verbally
I
vote
can't
one
vote.
way. Oh, so I'm sorry. I keep forgetting that. My goodness.
It's okay.
Okay. Thank you. All those opposed? All right. And was there anyone abstaining? All right. Motion passes. Okay. So that takes us through all of our new business on our agenda. As far as announcements goes, on Good Friday is on April 15th, and there's no school. And our next board meeting is on April 20th at 6:30 via Zoom. And with that, I will go ahead and move that we conclude the April 6th, 2022 VSWEA board meeting.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? All right. Motion passes. And April, when you have caught up, would you please read the closing verse for us?
Always hard when someone's missing to track the votes. I always have to double check. But I think I got it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. The most important tasks for humankind today and in the future is that we should learn to live together and understand one another. If this human fellowship is not achieved, all talk of development is empty. Rudolf Steiner.
April, thank you to all the board members and guests for joining. The 7 attendees that are remaining, thank you so much for your continued interest and support. And with that, I hope everyone has a great night and a great rest of your week. Good night.